The boy was standing barefoot on the concrete pad of Pump 3 at a Conoco station off I-40 outside Tucumcari, New Mexico, at 7 minutes past 2 on a Saturday morning. 10 years old, skinny, curly brown hair, matted like he'd been sleeping on it wrong for a week, wearing a white undershirt stained yellow at the collar and basketball shorts that went past his knees. No shoes, no jacket, arms wrapped around himself against the high desert cold that drops into the 40s after midnight even in September. And he was looking at Ghost, who was a 49-year-old former Navy corpsman whose real name was Clyde Hessler and who rode as road captain of the Black Ridge MC out of Amarillo, Texas, and who had just swung his leg off a 2017 road glide after 8 hours of empty highway between Albuquerque and nowhere. And the boy said 5 words that rearranged the next 48 hours of both their lives. "Can I borrow your phone?" What happened next would shut down a desert gas station, bring 6 motorcycles out of the Texas Panhandle darkness, and return a 10-year-old boy to the mother who'd been searching for him across 3 states for 16 days. The Conoco sat alone on the south side of the interstate, like something the desert had forgotten to swallow. 1 overhead light buzzing, 2 pumps working, 2 out of order. A metal trash can chained to a post. The convenience store was closed. Roll-down security grate pulled shut, lights off inside except for a neon open sign that was lying, because nothing was open. The only illumination came from the pump canopy and the red glow of a Coca-Cola machine humming against the building's east wall. Beyond the station, the desert was black. No streetlights, no houses, no headlights on the highway in either direction. Just the sound of the pump canopy light buzzing and the faint tick of Ghost's engine cooling. Ghost had been riding home from a poker run in Santa Fe, a fundraiser for a veterans shelter that the Black Ridge chapter had co-sponsored with the Iron Guardians out of Albuquerque. He'd stayed too late, talked too long, drank too much coffee and not enough water, and now he was paying for it with a headache and a gas tank that was optimistic at best. He'd pulled off at Tucumcari because the next station was 70 miles, and his road glide didn't have 70 miles in it. He was 49 years old, 5'11", 225 pounds, with a shaved head that gleamed under the pump light and a salt and pepper goatee trimmed tight against a jaw that had taken its share of hits. His arms carried full sleeves, a navy caduceus and the word "Doc" in block letters on his left forearm. A compass rose on his right shoulder, and along his ribs, hidden under the vest, the names of 3 Marines who died in Fallujah, while Ghost held pressure on wounds that weren't going to close. He'd been Hospital Corpsman 2nd Class, attached to 2nd Marine Division, and he'd spent 2 deployments learning that the difference between alive and dead was usually about 4 minutes, and whether somebody nearby gave a damn. He was filling his tank and thinking about the motel in Amarillo and a bed that didn't vibrate when the boy appeared. Not walked up. Appeared. Like he'd materialized from the darkness beyond the pump canopy. 1 second Ghost was alone, and the next there was a child standing 6 feet away, barefoot on concrete that still held the day's heat, looking at him with eyes that were too focused for 2 in the morning. "Can I borrow your phone? I need to call my mom." Ghost's hand came off the fuel nozzle. His first thought wasn't danger. It wasn't suspicion. It was triage. 18 years of medical training don't shut off. They just run in the background like software you can't uninstall. His eyes went to the boy's feet first. Bare, dirty, no visible cuts, but the soles were red from walking on hot pavement. Then the face, split lip, healing, maybe 4 days old, scabbed at the corner. Dark circles under both eyes. Freckles across the nose that looked too young for the expression wearing them. The arms, no visible bruises, but the boy was holding himself in a way Ghost recognized from triage tents, arms crossed tight against his own chest, making himself as compact as possible. Self-protection posture. Yeah, Ghost said. Yeah, you can use my phone. What's your name, buddy? Declan. Okay, Declan. Where'd you come from? The boy pointed across the highway. Ghost followed his finger to the Motel Diaz, a single-story motor lodge on the north side of I-40, maybe 300 yards away. Half its sign was burnt out. A few rooms had lights on. A tan Ford Explorer was parked in front of room 9. My dad's in there. He's asleep. I waited until he was asleep, and then I walked here. Subscribe to Asphalt Angels and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because this story is about a 10-year-old who waited for his chance, crossed a highway in the dark, and asked a stranger for help. Ghost pulled out his phone, but he didn't hand it over. Not yet. He knelt down, not because he was trying to be at eye level with a child the way they teach you in parenting books, but because his knees were stiff and kneeling was how he'd spent most of his medical career, kneeling next to people who were on the ground. Declan, before I give you this phone, I need you to tell me what's going on. Are you hurt? My lips from last week. He didn't mean to. His elbow caught me when I tried to get past him to the door. Declan said it flat. Rehearsed. The way you say something you've explained before, and nobody believed. When did your dad take you? 16 days ago. It was supposed to be a visit. He was supposed to bring me back Sunday night, but he didn't. He just kept driving. Driving where? Everywhere. Oklahoma, Texas. Now here. He says we're going to California. He says Mom doesn't want me anymore, and that's why she let me go. But she didn't let me go. He just didn't bring me back. Ghost looked at the boy. He looked at the motel. He looked at the Explorer with Oklahoma plates parked in front of room 9. And he felt the thing he'd felt 100 times in Fallujah, the cold, clinical clarity that settles in when the situation is bad and the next 60 seconds matter. But then a second feeling came, one he hadn't expected. Doubt. Because this wasn't a stranger with a van. This was a father, and Ghost had been around enough custody fights, had watched 2 of his own brothers in the MC go through divorces that turned ugly, to know that sometimes the story you hear first isn't the whole story. What if the mom was the problem? What if this kid was repeating things he'd been coached to say? What if handing this boy a phone was the wrong call? He looked at the split lip, at the bare feet on hot concrete at 2 a.m., at the way the boy was standing, not beside a parent, not safe in a bed, but alone at a gas pump in the New Mexico desert, shivering, asking a stranger for help. That was enough. You don't walk barefoot across a highway at 2 in the morning because your life is fine. Here. Ghost handed him the phone. You know your mom's number? Yeah. Declan's hands shook as he took it. Not from the cold. From the thing that happens when you've been waiting 16 days for a moment, and it finally arrives, and your body doesn't know what to do with it. He dialed. It rang 4 times. Ghost watched the boy's face, watched hope and terror fight for control of it. And then someone answered. Hello? A woman's voice, confused, guarded. The voice of someone who gets calls from unknown numbers at 2 a.m. and knows it's never good. Mom? Silence. 1 full second. Then a sound that Ghost would carry for the rest of his life. A gasp that wasn't a gasp, more like the sound a person makes when they've been underwater and they finally break the surface. A sound that was relief and grief and fury and love compressed into 1 syllable. Declan? Declan? Baby, where are you? Where are you? I'm at a gas station in New Mexico. I don't know where exactly. Mom, he's at the motel. He's asleep. I walked here. There's a man here. He let me use his phone. Are you safe? Are you safe right now? Yeah, the man has a motorcycle. He has patches. Mom, can you come get me? I'm coming. I'm coming right now. Baby, don't move. Don't go anywhere. Give the phone to the man. I need to talk to him." Declan handed the phone to Ghost. His hand was still shaking, but something in his face had changed. Something had come back online, some light behind the eyes that hadn't been there 30 seconds ago. He'd called his mom. She'd answered. She was coming. If this story has already gripped you, share it and subscribe to Asphalt Angels, because a 10-year-old just called his mother from a stranger's phone at 2 in the morning, and that phone call is the bravest thing you'll hear all week. This is Clyde Hessler. I'm at the Conoco station off I-40 just east of Tucumcari. Your son walked here from the motel across the highway. He's safe. He's with me. Don't let him go, please. Please don't let anyone take him. His father, Neil Phelps, he took him 16 days ago from a supervised visit in Tulsa. I have full custody. There's an active warrant. The FBI has a case open. His father is across the highway in that motel right now. Please, please don't let him. Ma'am, Megan, listen to me. Nobody is taking this kid anywhere. I'm going to call 911 right now. What's the case number? She gave it to him. She gave him everything, the FBI agent's name, the warrant number, the Oklahoma custody order reference, Declan's birthday, his school, his pediatrician. She gave him 16 days of information she'd kept loaded in her brain like a gun, ready to fire the second someone finally called. Ghost hung up and called 911. And this is where the story takes a turn that anyone who's dealt with custody cases will recognize. Key County, 911. Yeah, I need help. I've got a 10-year-old boy at the Conoco off I-40, east side of Tucumcari, mile marker 329 or close to it. His name is Declan Oates. He walked here barefoot from the Motel Diaz across the highway. He's cold, he's got a healing split lip, and he says his father took him from a supervised visit in Tulsa 16 days ago. Mother has full custody. She says there's an FBI case, number TU 202-604-417. The father's name is Neil Warren Phelps. He's asleep in room 9 at the motel right now. Tan Ford Explorer, Oklahoma plates. Sir, is this a domestic situation? It's an abduction. The mother has full custody. There's a warrant. And you said the child's father is the one who has him? Had him. The kid left. He walked across the highway barefoot at 2 a.m. to get away from the man. That's what I'm telling you. There was a pause. The kind of pause that meant the dispatcher was categorizing this as a custody dispute, which meant it was going into a different mental filing cabinet than a stranger abduction, which meant the urgency just dropped 3 levels. Sir, I understand. I'm going to dispatch a deputy. Can you stay on the line? How long? Key County has 1 unit on patrol tonight. It may be 20 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes. The man is 300 yards away in a motel room. When he wakes up and realizes the kid is gone, he's going to come looking. I need someone here now. I understand your concern, sir. A unit is being dispatched. If you're watching this Asphalt Angel story, hit that hype button right now. It's free, takes 1 second, and helps this reach more people. Now, back to the story. Ghost ended the call and opened the Black Ridge group text. He typed, "Need bodies. Conoco, I-40, Tucumcari. Kid situation. Father across the highway. Come now. GPS pin." Brick replied first. "Amarillo, 2 hours. Leaving now." Then Clutch. Same. Rolling. Then Wraith, who was closer. He'd been visiting his daughter in Santa Rosa, 40 minutes east. 40 minutes. Coming. 3 more names. 6 total. It wasn't 17 bikes or 12 bikes. It was 6 guys in the middle of the night in the middle of nowhere, and 2 of them were 2 hours away. Ghost did the math. Wraith in 40 minutes. Deputies in 20 to 30. Neil Phelps in room 9, 300 yards away. And Ghost had no way of knowing when the man would wake up and find the bed next to him empty. He looked at Declan. The boy was sitting on the concrete pad next to the pump, his back against the metal base, his bare feet pulled up under him. "Declan, are you cold?" "Yeah." Ghost walked to his road glide, unstrapped his saddlebag, and pulled out a flannel-lined denim jacket that smelled like road dust and engine oil. He draped it over the boy's shoulders. It was enormous on him. The sleeves hung a foot past his hands. Declan pulled it tight. "That man across the highway," Ghost said, sitting down next to him on the concrete. "Your dad. Is he going to come looking for you?" "When he wakes up." "Yeah. He always checks. He sleeps light since we left Tulsa." "Has he hurt you, besides the lip?" Declan was quiet for a long time. Then, "He grabbed my arm really hard once. In Texas. I tried to go to the front desk of a motel, and he grabbed me and pulled me back. He said I was being ungrateful. He said he was saving me. He says the courts stole me from him, and he's taking me back." Another pause. "He cries a lot. When he thinks I'm asleep. He tells me he loves me, and then he locks the door." Ghost sat with that. It was the hardest kind of situation, not a monster, but a man who'd convinced himself that what he was doing was love. A man who'd probably sat in a courtroom and heard a judge say words that broke something in him, and instead of finding a lawyer or a therapist, he'd found his car keys. Ghost had seen this before. In the Navy, in the MC, in his own family. Men who confused possession with protection. Men who loved so hard it looked exactly like control. But none of that changed the facts. The facts were, a child with a split lip, bare feet, 16 days missing, a mother with full custody, an active warrant, and a boy who'd walked across a highway in the dark because the person who was supposed to keep him safe was the person he was running from. 22 minutes passed. Ghost and Declan sat on the concrete and talked, not about the situation, about other things. Ghost asked Declan what grade he was in. 5th, what his favorite subject was. Science. What kind of science? Space. Declan told Ghost about the James Webb Telescope and how it could see light from billions of years ago. And Ghost listened and nodded and thought about how a kid who could explain infrared wavelengths was sitting barefoot at a gas pump at 2 a.m. because the system had failed him. Then a light came on in room 9 of the Motel Diaz. Ghost saw it through the gap between the gas station canopy and the highway guardrail, a yellow rectangle appearing in the darkness, then a shadow moving behind the curtain. Then the curtain pulled aside. "He's up," Ghost said quietly. Declan went rigid, every muscle in his body locked. The kid who'd been explaining how telescopes work was gone, replaced by something smaller, something that had learned exactly what that light coming on meant. "You're not going anywhere," Ghost said. "You're sitting right here with me." The motel room door opened. A man stepped out. Average height, soft build, receding brown hair, glasses. He was wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants and no shoes. He looked left. He looked right. He looked at the gas station across the highway. And then he started walking. He crossed the highway, no traffic, no reason to wait, and walked across the Conoco lot with a stride that was trying to be calm but wasn't. His hands were at his sides. His jaw was set. He was breathing hard by the time he reached the pump island, and when he saw Declan sitting on the concrete wrapped in Ghost's jacket, his face crumpled. "Declan, Jesus Christ, what are you? Come on, we're going back, right now." Declan pressed his back against the pump base and pulled his knees tighter to his chest. He didn't speak. He didn't move. "He's not going anywhere," Ghost said. He was standing now, every inch of him between the man and the boy. Not aggressive, not threatening, just present. A wall made of one person. "That's my son," I have every legal right. You don't. There's a warrant. I've already called 911 and his mother. The change was instant. The crumpled face hardened. The tears that had been forming dried. Something behind the man's eyes shifted from desperation to calculation. You called Megan. You called. You have no idea what she's like. You have no idea what she did to us. The courts, the whole system. She turned everyone against me. She coached him. Everything he's telling you is, I hear you, Ghost said, and he meant it, not as agreement, but as acknowledgement. The Navy taught him that. You don't de-escalate by arguing. You de-escalate by hearing. I hear what you're saying, but right now, at 2 a.m., your son is barefoot at a gas station in the desert. Whatever happened in court, whatever happened with the custody, we can talk about all of that. But right now, we wait for the police. That's it. We just wait. I'm not waiting for anyone. Declan, get up. We're leaving. Neil took a step forward. Ghost didn't move. Neil took another step. Ghost still didn't move. Then Neil reached past Ghost, actually reached past him, arm extended toward Declan, and Ghost caught his wrist. Not hard, not violent. The way you catch someone's wrist when they're reaching for an IV line, they shouldn't be touching. Clinical. Firm. Final. Don't, Ghost said. Neil tried to pull his arm free. Couldn't. He looked at Ghost's hand on his wrist, then at Ghost's face, and whatever he saw there, the absolute stillness of a man who had held dying Marines and not flinched, made him stop pulling. Let go of me. When you step back, I will. Neil stepped back. Ghost released his wrist. For 3 minutes they stood in the sodium light of the Conoco canopy, Ghost between Neil and Declan, Declan against the pump base, Neil pacing in a tight circle 5 feet away, muttering about lawyers and judges and the things he was going to do when this was over. Ghost let him talk. Talking meant he wasn't moving. Talking meant he was burning time. And time was the only thing Ghost needed. Wraith arrived first. His Heritage Softail came off the exit ramp at a speed that suggested he hadn't looked at his speedometer since Santa Rosa. He pulled into the lot sideways, killed the engine, and walked over to Ghost without a word. He looked at the boy. He looked at Neil. He stood next to Ghost and crossed his arms. 2 men now, 2 walls. Then headlights, a Key County Sheriff's cruiser coming up the access road, blue and red light painting the gas pumps, the canopy, and the face of a man who had just realized that taking his son back wasn't going to happen tonight or any other night. If Asphalt Angels has become part of your week, consider joining the channel membership. Just a couple bucks a month keeps these stories coming. Links below, and hit that hype button if you haven't already. Now, back to the story. Neil Warren Phelps did not go quietly. He argued. He cried. He produced a wallet photo of Declan as a baby and held it up like evidence. He told the deputy that Ghost had assaulted him, grabbed his wrist, and the deputy looked at Ghost and looked at Neil and made the calculation that law enforcement makes every single day in custody situations, which is, who is the child afraid of? Declan was behind Ghost, both hands gripping the back of Ghost's vest, his face pressed into the denim jacket that still hung off his shoulders like a cape. He had not looked at his father since the man arrived. He had not spoken to him. He had not moved toward him. A child who is safe with his parent does not hide behind a stranger. The deputy saw this. Neil was cuffed at 2:54 a.m. He was still talking when they put him in the back of the cruiser, about his rights, about the system, about how everyone would see, how this would all come out in court. The deputy closed the door and his voice became a muffle behind glass, and Declan finally exhaled. The FBI would later confirm the active warrant. Neil Warren Phelps had taken Declan during a supervised visit at a family center in Tulsa 16 days earlier. The supervisor had stepped into the hallway to take a phone call, 2 minutes, maybe 3, and when she came back, the room was empty. Neil had driven his Explorer west on I-40 and hadn't stopped. He'd used cash for everything. No credit cards, no phone after day 2. He'd tossed it out the window somewhere in the Texas Panhandle. He'd moved motels every night. He'd told Declan that Megan didn't want him, that the courts had given him to Neil, that if Declan tried to contact anyone, the police would put him in foster care, and he'd never see either parent again. 16 days of lies told by a man who believed every single one of them. Megan Oates left Tulsa at 2:30 in the morning and did not stop. Not for gas, not for coffee, not when the low fuel light came on somewhere in the Texas Panhandle and she had to make it 30 more miles on fumes because stopping meant not moving, and not moving was not an option. She blew past Amarillo at speeds she would never admit to. She crossed into New Mexico as the sky turned gray. She didn't remember the drive later. She remembered her hands on the wheel and the center line, and her son's voice on the phone saying, "Mom." Just that one word, playing on loop in her head like a song she couldn't turn off and didn't want to. She pulled into the Key County Sheriff's substation at 8:15 a.m. Declan was in a back office. He was asleep on a couch that someone had covered with a clean sheet. Ghost's denim jacket was pulled up to his chin. His bare feet stuck out the bottom, still dirty, still uncovered. A female deputy had tried to give him shoes from the lost and found box. He'd said no. He'd said he was fine. He'd fallen asleep mid-sentence. Megan came through the door, and Declan woke up. He looked at her. He didn't study her. He didn't freeze. He didn't check to see if she was real. He knew she was real because he'd called her 5 hours ago, and she'd said, "I'm coming," and she had come. He ran. Off the couch, across the room, bare feet slapping linoleum. Megan had been an ER paramedic for 9 years before she'd switched to dispatch, and her body still remembered how to catch someone. She braced against the doorframe, dropped her weight, and absorbed the impact. She didn't fall. She held, both arms locked around him, his face buried in her neck, his feet off the floor because she'd lifted him without thinking about it. The way your body remembers your child being small enough to carry, even when he isn't anymore. She stood there in the doorway of a sheriff's substation in Tucumcari, New Mexico, holding her son off the ground, while morning sun came through the blinds in yellow stripes, and a deputy pretended to read paperwork, and a vending machine hummed, and nobody moved for a long time. Megan didn't say his name over and over. She didn't rock him. She said one thing, and it was the thing she'd been waiting 16 days to say. "I never stopped looking. Not for 1 second. Do you hear me? Not for 1 second." Declan said, "I know, Mom. That's why I called." Ghost met Megan outside the station an hour later. Brick and Clutch had arrived by then. They'd driven through the night from Amarillo, 230 miles, and they were standing by their bikes with gas station coffee, looking like men who hadn't slept because they hadn't. Megan walked straight to Ghost. She didn't hesitate. She didn't study the tattoos or the vest or the shaved head the way people usually did. She'd spent 5.5 hours driving toward this man based on nothing but his voice on a phone at 2 a.m., and she'd already decided. "You gave him your phone," she said. He asked politely. Megan blinked. Then she laughed, a short, startled sound, the kind of laugh that escapes before you can stop it. The first real one she'd made in 16 days. "You could have said no. 2 in the morning, kid walks up, could be anything. You could have just filled your tank and left." Ghost looked at her. He thought about saying something about duty, about the MC, about the Brotherhood, but he'd spent 20 years in medicine, Navy triage, ER rotations, field trauma, and medicine had taught him that the biggest moments don't need speeches. They need presence. "I wasn't going anywhere," he said. Then she hugged him, and Ghost hugged her back, immediately, both arms, the way he'd held 100 people in triage when their world was falling apart. No hesitation, no stiffness. He'd spent his whole life being the person who holds on when everything else lets go. The Black Ridge MC of Amarillo, Texas, now sponsors a program called The Watch. They volunteer as supervised visit monitors for family courts in the Texas Panhandle, large men in leather vests who sit quietly in the corner of visitation rooms and make sure every child who arrives for a visit also leaves with the right parent. 3 judges in Potter County have requested them by name. The waitlist to volunteer is 4 months long. Declan Oates is 11 now. He's in 5th grade in Tulsa. He plays baseball, shortstop, and he's not great at it, but he's loud about it, and his mom says that's the part that matters. He sends Ghost a drawing every month. The first one was the gas station, 2 pumps, 1 motorcycle, 1 boy, rendered in colored pencil with the careful imprecision of a 10-year-old who hasn't taken an art class but has something to say. Ghost keeps every drawing in a plastic sleeve in his saddlebag, right behind his registration and proof of insurance. The stack is getting thick. "Can I borrow your phone?" That's what Declan said. 5 words. Polite, direct. The kind of thing a 10-year-old says when he's been taught manners, even while his world was falling apart. He didn't scream. He didn't run into traffic. He didn't wave down a car. He walked to a gas pump, found a man with patches, and asked to borrow his phone. Because what Declan understood, what children in these stories keep understanding over and over, is that asking for help is not weakness. It's the hardest, bravest thing you can do when you've been told for 16 days that nobody is coming. Somebody was coming. She drove 5.5 hours through the dark. And the man who lent his phone? He stayed. He stood between a boy and the door. He waited. Be the one who hands over the phone. Be the one who stays. Thank you for watching this story. If it reminded you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just say yes when a child asks for help, please share it. Subscribe to Asphalt Angels for more stories proving that the person the world tells you to fear might be the one standing between your child and the dark. Tell us in the comments, has a stranger ever helped you when nobody else would?